First, I'm going to show you an overview between the general test and the academic test when it comes to writing. Now, they're quite different, but keep in mind that they both have two sections for a total of 60 minutes. Now, it's up to the test taker to differentiate the time, so it's best to spend less time on the first section and more time on the second section, at least for the academic test. So let's look at the differences here. You have a task 1 and a task 2 in both cases, but in the general test, task 1 will require you to write a letter requesting information or explaining a situation. So this is something that you would do in your daily life at work or writing a letter to a friend, and these range from informal, semi-formal, and formal tones. The academic test, on the other hand, the first task will require you to describe and analyze a graph, or a table, a chart, or a diagram. And this language is a lot more formal in tone. It is something that you would do at work or something you would see in an academic setting, of course, for the academic test. Now, for the second task, it's basically writing an essay in both cases, but the subjects change. In the general test, task 2 will require you to write an essay in response to a point of view, an argument, or a problem. And that's quite similar to the task 2 in the academic test, which will require you to write an essay in response to various points in a traditional essay writing style. And of course, this is also formal in nature. There are 6 different types of essays that you might come across during your academic training in task 2. So we'll get into that a bit later, but these are the main differences between the general test and the academic test. Keep in mind that the amount of sections are the same and the time is also the same. All right, let's look at the academic writing more in depth. Now, for the academic writing, we looked at the 2 tasks. I'm just going to show you a breakdown in terms of details and timing. So like we said, task 1 will have you describing and analyzing a graph, a table, a chart, or a diagram, and you should spend more or less 20 minutes on this. Now, you might be thinking that it's not enough time to fully describe and analyze something, but with a lot of practice and understanding how to best tackle this question type, 20 minutes is sufficient. And keep in mind that you'll only have to write 150 words minimum. So this is important. We'll come back to this in just a moment. Task 2, on the other hand, is more of an essay writing style. So you don't have to analyze information or data. Instead, you're going to have one of 6 different essay styles, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And it's a very traditional essay writing style that you would find in an academic setting, at university, or things like this. We would suggest around 40 minutes for task 2 because you'll need to develop a clear, coherent, and organized essay with logical thoughts scattered throughout. So you'll actually have to spend time outlining your writing. And you'll see that the writing, the words have increased. So your minimum amount is 250 words. So obviously you'll need more time to fulfill this requirement. Also, in terms of scoring, task 2 is about more or less double the points of task 1. So the fact that this is, in quotations, more important than task 1 in terms of scoring, you'll want to spend more time on it. So always keep this in mind as well. So even though the tasks are weighted differently, they still use the same IELTS band score. So 9 is the highest and 0 is the lowest. Now I want to get into our 6 essay types, and you'll find videos that are dedicated to each specific essay type. In this section of our general video, I'm just going to give you some bullet points about what the essay is, and then I'll show you an example question so that you can actually look at the wording and understand how it's organized. So our first essay type is the cause and effect essay. Basically, you'll be given a problem or a situation, and you'll have to describe its causes and its effects. And the example question here says, many children who are homeschooled are not prepared for university at the same rate of children in government-funded schools. What do you think are the causes of this? What effects will this have on society? Now, sometimes you'll have to describe effects on society or effects on individuals. It might tell you exactly what you have to talk about. So look at this wording and make sure you pay attention here. You might also see the word measures instead of effects. The IELTS exam will try to trick you with using different words, so pay attention to that as well. But this is a very clear cause and effect essay. When you read your prompt on test day, it's important that you read, underline keywords, and also think about what type of essay it could be. In this case, it's very clear that it is causes and effects. All right, let's move on to the next one. The second essay is problem and solution, and quite simply, you're going to be given a problem or a situation, and you'll have to describe the causes and or the potential solutions to the problem. And similar to the cause and effect essay, these potential solutions can include both general and specific. So again, it could be talking about society or it could be talking about certain individuals. It really depends on the question. The one we have here says, the majority of criminal offenders commit more crimes after finishing their first prison sentences. Why do you think this happens, and what can be done to tackle this problem? So if you were given this question in the exam, you would do exactly as I did. You would underline your keywords and then really pay attention to this last sentence. Why do you think this happens, and what can be done to tackle or solve this problem? And you would develop an outline that would go into the problem, so the cause, and what can be done to solve the problem. Next, we have our advantages and disadvantages essay. And here you're going to be asked to discuss the positive and the negative aspects of a situation. You might also be asked to give your opinion. Now, this does not always occur, so it's something to keep in mind. In our advantages and disadvantages essay, we go into the various types of writing prompts you might see, because this question varies and it has different types. But be aware that you might have to talk about your opinion in this case. This question, for example, says, as a result of tourism and globalization, English has become the most widely spoken language in the world. Some people think this will lead to English becoming the only global language. What are the advantages and disadvantages to having one global language? Do you believe this would be a positive factor in society? And so this is a very common and actually quite difficult advantages and disadvantages essay topic, because you have to fit in the advantages, the disadvantages, and your opinion in a minimum of 250 words in 40 minutes. So pay attention to this. The video we have on advantages and disadvantages is quite helpful, so go ahead and check that out. Now we have the discussion essay. I have to say that this essay is probably one of the more straightforward essays, and quite simply, you're going to be given two contrasting views, and usually the two views will be separated in two separate sentences connected by a transition word, and I'll show you this in just a minute, but this is a great clue that the two sentences are in opposition to each other. And basically what you'll have to do is write a discursive essay contrasting these two views and also giving your opinion. Let's look at a prompt. Obtaining a university degree is believed by some to be the best way to guarantee future success in one's career. On the other hand, this is the connective with the contrasting view, some people reckon that learning a trade and getting experience is a better guarantee of steady work and income. Discuss both sides and give your own opinion. So in this case, it's very clear we have two contrasting ideas that you'd have to explain, and then you'd have to give your opinion. Then we have an opinion essay, and this is also quite straightforward when it comes to IELTS topics. Basically with this, you're going to be given an opinion, and you'll have to respond and state if you agree or disagree with the opinion that was given. An example would be, the drastic increase in cases of obesity is putting a strain on the healthcare system. Some healthcare workers believe that introducing more physical education lessons in schools is the best way to solve this epidemic. To what extent do you agree or disagree? And of course, you see your opinion here, and you have to think about whether or not you agree. This could take some time in the planning stage. In just a minute, I'll show you how to make an outline and how to actually organize your thoughts. But keep in mind, with the opinion essays, you'll have to spend some time thinking about your opinion because you have to formulate your thoughts. Now, the two-part essay is going to feature two different questions, and you'll have to answer both of them. An example of this would be, nowadays, social media is used as a marketing tool for businesses. How important is it to use social media for business? The first question. Do you think using social media for business can have negative consequences? And there is the second question. So in this case, you would have to answer both of these questions within your 250-word minimum and in 40 minutes. So this is quite something. You'll have to think of two answers for two different questions, formulate an outline that makes sure you're hitting all of the points included so that you can get the maximum score for your task achievement, which we'll look at in just a bit. Okay, so we've just looked at the different types of essays that you could be presented with, and now I'm going to give you a very general guide on how to approach the academic writing task 2. Now, in our various videos for each type of essay, I go really into detail on how to develop this guide, but in this case, I'm going to give you the foolproof 3 steps that are the same for all essays. And the first part would be to read and understand the prompt. This is basically what we have just done. So we read and we underlined our keywords, and we really thought about what type of essay we needed to write. So this is always going to be your first step. Never fly through reading the writing prompt. You want to spend some time, underline your keywords, and this will help your brain formulate ideas, brainstorm your points and sentences that you want to add, and it's extremely important. Also, some of the writing in the IELTS prompts can trick you, and they're out to confuse you. So make sure you know exactly what type of essay you have to write. What I mean is that sometimes cause and effect essay prompts may seem more like an opinion, and students will end up writing the wrong essay and not getting a great score on this section. So keep this in mind. Secondly, you want to plan your outline, and the outline will depend on your specific essay type. So the outline, for example, for the opinion essay is going to be different than the outline for problem and solution. So I would encourage you to check out our videos so you can be familiar with the 6 different types of outlines. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and make outline notes. And this is where you're going to brainstorm topics. You're going to get your main points and your details and your examples ready with a few keywords. And then once you've done this, you can start writing. Now, I would just like to end this video and talk a bit about scoring. These 4 factors are going to be the same no matter what essay you have in the IELTS Academic Writing Task 2, and we'll talk a little bit about each. Basically, your first one is going to be task achievement. So this makes sure that you fully answered the question and that you presented a fully developed answer. This means that you'll need to fully answer the questions. So for example, if you have a 2-part essay, but you only have time to finish 1 part, you would not get the full score for task achievement. This is another reason why reading the writing prompt and understanding everything you have to do is extremely important. The second factor is coherence and cohesion. And basically, this asks the question, does your argument make sense? Is it logical? Have you thought about it and presented it in a complete way? And this is also why the outline is so important, because if you spend just around 5 minutes before actually putting your pen to the test booklet, if you spend 5 minutes just thinking about your argument and if it makes sense, your score in this section will definitely increase. A lot of students lose points here because they start writing without having really thought about their argument, and they usually change their argument midway, or they lose track, or they go off on a tangent. And then before you know it, you've written 300 words and you're not even finished. So make sure you have your outline so that task achievement and coherence and cohesion can be the best that they can be. So if your essay is virtually error-free, and if you used a wide range of vocabulary in a formal tone, your lexical resource will have a good score. If you've managed to use a lot of grammar structures like past perfect continuous, passive voice, using modals, the list goes on and on. But if you're able to use these and it's relevant and it makes sense for your essay, you're probably on the right track for grammar as well. Now, lexical resource and grammatical range really have to do with your outside knowledge and your preparation. So my tip would be to practice as much as you can. Read, watch films in English, listen to podcasts, and note all of the vocabulary, and this will really help you with the lexical resource. Of course, it wouldn't hurt to pick up your grammar book and just review certain structures so that you'll be more confident in using them during the exam. Okay, so let's just wrap up here with some tips and tricks for writing task 2. Again, first off, you want to read and understand your question. Then, based on that, you want to plan your outline and make notes. Remember, the outlines vary depending on the essay type, so be sure to check out our videos detailing the different essay types and the different outlines. If you have a question that requires you to formulate an opinion, decide on your opinion quickly. And I say quickly because the sooner you know your opinion, the sooner you can think of main points and examples, and the sooner you can start writing. The worst case scenario would be, you start writing and then you change your opinion midway through. So make sure you decide on your opinion quickly and you stick to it. Of course, you want to use varied grammar structures and vocabulary like we just talked about. And keep in mind, you'll have a 250-word minimum and more or less 40 minutes to do this section. Of course, this 40 minutes depends on how much time you allot to writing task 1 as well, but 40 minutes is a good way to go. And lastly, practice makes perfect. So don't expect to pass with flying colors the very first time.